Que lo que mi gente, bienvenidos a mi canal. It's me. Sit down. So for today's video, we are going to be talking about something different, and that is the journey to self-revelation. What I mean by that is doing things that help you discover you, of course. So just kind of little backstory about me. I am 30 years old. I live in Indiana, and I am just trying to figure out myself. I'm trying to figure out my groove. I'm trying to figure out what makes me tick, what makes me happy, what makes me angry, what does it for me. I just wanted to bring some versatility and some different topics to my channel, because I don't want to limit myself when I have a lot of knowledge or advice that a lot of people could use or could find helpful. So I wanted to change it up a bit. Whoa. And I just wanted to kind of share some notes that I have here on my notepad thing. These are a couple things. How many do I have? I have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 tips on discovering yourself and who you're supposed to be. So tip numero uno, what I do is never stop learning. So this piece of advice was given to me a few years ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. It actually is very true. That statement in and of itself holds true. Never stop learning. Never stop finding opportunities to learn something new, whether it's out in the world or within your own private setting. Just never stop learning. Educate yourself. Read new books. Read different books. Go to the library, search the internet, research different things. Never stop questioning things, because the moment that you stop, you just shut everything down, and your growth could be on the other side of that question, and you just never know. Like, you never know. So that's one thing that I'm learning right now, being 30 years old. Okay, so numero dos. So the second thing that I had is date yourself, especially if you're single. Me being a single 30-year-old woman, this is like prime for me. Like, they say that your 20s is your prime time, which it is physically, but like in every other aspect, emotionally, mentally, financially, spiritually, 30s is it, like, for us. Like, this is the prime time for us. So what I mean by date yourself, and I do apologize, I have my notes right here, so I'm going to be looking down, but I wrote, learn yourself, your likes, your dislikes, what makes you happy, angry, peaceful, etc. Learn to do what brings you to a place of uninterrupted peace. Let me tell you something. Being a 30-year-old woman, a single 30-year-old woman, I have never wanted peace so much in my life than I do right now. And honestly, it's when I pray for peace, when I pray and ask for uninterrupted peace, when I pray for that, like, God puts me in situations where I tell myself to be peaceful. And I think that's a lot of, like, that's a huge misconception, and that is, like, if you pray to something, if you pray to God and ask him for something, then people think that, oh, he's just gonna give it to me when I'm ready. And sometimes that's the case. God is not always, like, once I pray for something, he is not always just gonna give it to me like that whenever I'm ready. He's going to put me in a situation where I have to tell myself to be at peace, be still. You can't control anything, you can't change anything. This is all me. So I'm gonna put you in a situation where either you can lose your mind and be chaotic, or you can tell your inner man to be at rest and be at peace. So anyway, that's just that in a nutshell. So date yourself, learn what you are gonna tolerate, learn what you are not gonna tolerate. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships like husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. I'm also talking about platonic relationships too, like friendships and the rest. We'll wait for a moment. Okay, so Lord, help me get peace with this dog now. Watch out for you, unplug my light. So, where was I at? So yeah, número tres. So for number 3, I put set small goals. So a lot of times I just love to like sit and like stare off and just picture different scenarios about my life and where I see myself in 3, 5, 10 years. I never go past 10 for some reason, but whatever. But I always kind of like have these crazy imaginations, I guess, of what life could be if I did this, or what life could be if I did that, or whatever. But what leads to that is setting small goals now in the present. And a lot of people are like, well, duh, like that's pretty common next. But honestly, it's one of the more harder things that I've had to do for me personally. Setting small goals is something that is either overlooked or like unimpressive. Like when people think of goals, they automatically think ahead, so far ahead to where they forget about the now and getting there to the far ahead. And honestly, this is something that I have to like retrain and relearn myself, because I'm so good at setting future goals for like 5 years, 10 years, and that's it. But like right now, I keep forgetting to live in the moment right now, and also building the necessary foundation for right now with those goals to get to the further ahead, to the 5 year, to the 10 year. So set small goals, something that's achievable. And so don't overwhelm yourself with large goals that are definitely going to take you years to get to. Set small goals right now, whether it be like losing 10 pounds this month. Like that's a small goal. It's big because losing weight is very difficult, but it's a smaller goal than saying, oh, I want to get down to 140 pounds by the end of this year. Like that's definitely something to keep in mind, but don't really focus on that. Focus on the now. Focus on building healthy habits now. That way when you get to like next year or later on this year and then you go to weigh in, you've achieved it. Like you're like, oh, I did do that. Make sure that they're attainable for the time and that you're in right now, for the resources that you have right now in your life. And I will say a tidbit on that. One thing that a lot of people do, myself included, is that we set such long, good goals, which again, that's great. But a lot of the times God is saying you actually don't lack anything. Use what I gave you. And sometimes I post that on Facebook because it's a nice reminder, like I have everything that I need. But just because you mishandle stuff that he's given you doesn't mean you need more of it. You just need to learn to operate what you have. And then when you're ready, then when you have that down, then he'll graduate you to the next level. So número cuatro, number 4, this is something that may not pertain to everybody, but again, this is something that I have found to be helpful. But not everyone believes in God, not everyone believes in Jesus. That's fine. I'm not here to push him down your throat. However, number 4 for me is keep praying. One thing that I always try to have on my notes is never stop praying, communicating with God. God aligns us where we need to be in his will. Once we surrender, ask God what desires, interests, and tasks did he place in our hearts to do. So what makes me keep going, or what helps me to consider my future, to consider that I am here for a reason, is that I just keep constant communication with God, whether that's praying or taking a moment at work. Sometimes I take a moment at work and go in the bathroom and just kind of like talking to God, maybe not as prayer, but like just talking and having a conversation. And sometimes it's needed just to kind of keep your peace, your sanity. You have to speak to whatever higher being that you choose, if that's something that you do believe in. But I know that me personally, I keep constant communication with him, and I know that the Bible says, the way that we paraphrase the Bible is that we keep asking, keep seeking, keep knocking. That's just kind of like my tip for me. I keep trying to seek God and find him in ways where he can speak to me, or where I silence myself long enough to where I can listen to his voice. So that is something that I try to do. Okay, so for the last thing, which is to me the hardest thing, number 5, and that is to be kind to yourself. A lot of times we get so worked up and we just, you know, maximize our failures and not really taking a moment and praising ourselves for our positives, for our strengths, our accomplishments, our achievements. Sometimes I know, like with a lot of people that I follow on Facebook, for instance, they have an accomplishment, but they're already on to the next thing, which is cool if to a certain extent. Sometimes you just have to like be kind to yourself and be easy in the moment. Just kind of like what I wrote down here on my notes was go a little easy on yourself. Some things take time and deserve gentleness to reach its full potential. Befriend patience and cut yourself some slack. Listen, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, Patience and I, we ain't never been friends. No homegirl, nah. And I can attribute all of my failures to not executing patience. That's just something that you just kind of have to like work within yourself. A lot of things, a lot of times God reminds me, or the Holy Spirit reminds me that about time. And I think the most beautiful, fascinating thing about time, if this is something that you do believe within God or Jesus or whoever, time is something that was created. It's something that just wasn't in existence. It was created. God did create time. So because he created that idea, he can function in and outside of that, which is why he's never rushed. He's never late. He's never, like, nothing ever catches him off guard. And that's the most beautiful thing that I have ever discovered in my own personal relationship with him. Is that if he's not rushed, or if he's not overwhelmed, or if he's not anxious, then why should I be? If I say that he's the author of my life, then I can't have him be the author and still feel rushed or worried or desperate or any of those negative things that the enemy tries to remind you of. If I say that I serve him, then these things should not exist, or these things should not have such a heavy weight in my life. So that's something that he just reminds me of, is just take a chill pill. Just like. And then another thing too that I found, which is probably the most important thing, is that everything that happens is not outside of his knowledge. Everything, every failure, every unsuccessful attempt at something, every broken relationship, every spoken word when you weren't around, every spoken word when you were around, everything that happens is not outside of his knowledge. Nothing will ever catch him off surprise. So I find peace in that. Be kind to yourself, love on yourself, give yourself a hug, take yourself on a date, pamper yourself, discover a hobby, you know, figure out you, and you'll get through this thing called life. So yeah. Alrighty guys, so that is it for my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. If you did find this helpful, definitely give me a comment or a like, share this video. I would definitely appreciate all the love and support. Of course, I do this for y'all. I do this for y'all. That's it. I gotta go. My battery's about to die. So catch y'all in the next one. Bye.